Hi, my name is Sarah. I live in Florida and I'm making a couple of videos going over the materials that we've enjoyed using or found particularly targeted for certain aspects. And one of the programs that I really liked early on, this is what we used for our initial uh, alphabetic principle and concepts of print, the very earliest stages of reading. And this is the Foundation C workbook, but the A and B foundations levels, I have since let go and put those to other families. But I did retain this book in case we decided to use some of the materials just as a point and read, and then I can let this one go on. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this program and why I really liked it for the earliest aspects of instruction and then why we since switched. So we do hear a lot of arguments about should you teach letter sounds, letter names? I was early on in the camp of teaching the sounds first, and then the shape is what we call the name. So a stop sign is an octagon, but anybody that sees a red octagon, they're going to say stop. I need it to be that automatic that when you see a red octagon, doesn't matter the size, shape, the context, it indicates stop. So when we're building letters, making letters, we're going to use the names a lot. But we also need to understand that they make a whole bunch of different sounds. So Denise Ide is the author of The Logic of English, the book. This was what started it all. It is an award winner. Common Sense Approach to Reading, Spelling, and Literacy. This goes over the rules and why we spell the way we do and how we use words in text. It goes over foundational consonant rules. Each rule has its own section in here, so you can actually explain. As an adult who's interested in literacy, I find this fascinating. My daughter does not need to know all of this. There are parents and teachers and even children who are going to get more out of the rules than I am then I have the conviction to instruct to. But I like to have this as a reference book and a place to go if and when she asks those shudder-worthy questions like, why? I can actually just pull this out and say, I don't have that answer ready for you, but I'm sure Denise does. Let's look it up. I have some of the, rules and such memorized and some of the history. I also found Diane McGinnis's book, Why Our Children Can't Read. Just absolutely fascinating. But this is a great buy for anybody that's teaching reading that wonders if you know enough. The answer is yes, you do. You don't need to know all this information. But if you're worried about it, here it is. This is why people struggle to read, write, and spell in English, with the exception of AAE, African dialect. That's going to be something that this is not going to cover because this is designed for generalized academic English. But it's still fascinating. This is a super fantastic book. And I still recommend it for parents. It says phonogram and spelling rules, which explain 98% of English words, how English words are formed, and how this knowledge can revolutionize vocabulary development, and how understanding the reasons behind English spelling prevents students from needing to guess. If you understand how it works, this is the really, really analytical part of the code, and it's a ton of fun for that style of brain and learner. So we do have the book that Denise wrote, and I'm very happy with it. We have the spelling rule cards, should they be required. We can actually go over the sounds on the back. Rule 31-1. Any vowel may say one of the schwa sounds, or or well, it would be or in an unstressed syllable or an unstressed word. Okay, that's really helpful information, but O may say in a stressed syllable next to W, TH, M, N, or V. And there's the list of words, and here's the rule on the back. So for kids that really might need to be in upper levels, here's the floss rule. Very clearly delineated. There is no guessing. We often, not always, we often double F, L, and S after a single short or broad vowel at the end of a base word. Occasionally, the other letters also are doubled. Okay. Very, very interesting. Not required to teach reading. I do keep these. I use these more with like my third graders that perhaps learned the code virtually or not whole language, but they only have partial mastery of the code, and they really need to understand the more complex spelling patterns and how to use them in order to read, write, and spell accurately. So these are great. It's a decent size card. You can go through them. You can periodically check yourself as an adult, because a lot of us don't know these rules like the back of our hands. So it's just really good material. They're not inexpensive, but there's nothing else like them. That makes them invaluable. I'm going to say that again. They're not inexpensive, but as far as I know, there's nothing else like these where you can just, here's the rules of how to read, write, and spell the English language. Just the rules. Just give me the rules. Give me the rules of the game. And then I'm going to kind of give you a flip through a little bit on Foundation C. Doodling Dragons is their alphabetic principle book. There's some nice sing-songy activities. There's some videos online. And they've also beefed up. You can order an online subscription for Foundations or Essentials, which is their, higher level grade school. But we'll just kind of go through some of these. So you can see I have not used this book, but we do a lot of like point and read. We do some of these activities just aloud because we don't have to, like, this is a writing page. I don't actually need this book to write, to practice what am I. I'm going to go back to front here. There's a couple games. These are designed to be cut out and saved for high frequency gameplay, practice, mastery. There are decodable readers that are very structured. The illustration quality is not up to my standard, but the photographs are wonderful, and I really appreciate the font and the cleanliness of the page. If you have a child who's very easily distracted, one of the things that we like to do with our readers, use a clip to leave it open so they're not tempted to move around in the book at all, and make sure that they are staying on task. This is really good exercise, really good size. The print is good. The illustrations are a decent size. So even if you have children that are having like visual difficulties, maybe you haven't had them evaluated for everything. Here's a bingo board. Just really nice. Just good. You don't need to do this as a game. You can just go through it and point. Oh, say oh. Oh. Say okay. Oh, and just move around. Ch, a, g, j, r, e, f, ow, o, e. Cool. You got it. Here we've got some ending vowels, long vowel game. You can make up your own rules. This is about a $25 book. You can get it on they only do one scratch and dent a year, I think. Maybe there's 2 scratch and dents. And that's a good time to try to pick it up at a discount. Because of the nature of this book, I would recommend not writing in it and just letting it go when you're done. That's my interpretation. I don't even see the need to make photocopies because they're just not going to be in it for terribly long. But it's a great addition to. I love that they have a combination of photographs and illustrations, which is something that you don't see in all programs. But this is very, very well designed cognitively, and for anybody that is considering Logic of English, they are fully aligned with state standards. So at the beginning of the teacher guide, which is a nice hardcover book, they do go over the state standards and Common Core, how it aligns, so that you can verify that, you know, everything in here is what they need to be learning. But this is a really nice book. And you could tell just by the cover that they're really working on how to put things together. You know, we don't call this phonics, but it's how to build, read, and write words. And that makes it really, really special. So if you were to get maybe a workbook, the Logic of English, I think this one's about $12. This would be about $25. I want to say that the cards are around $12 or $15 for a set. So it's not a lot. This is not enough to teach reading, but they're very unique materials. Very, very unique materials. And that makes them very valuable to me as a teacher, as a tutor, when I get parents that are really bewildered at, you know, all of the ins and outs to reading, writing, and spelling. This can be a really nice guide. Also, the speech to print method can be a very, very informative avenue to help fill in the gaps for the parents so that they understand a little bit about why it's so complicated and maybe how to make it less so. Because again, you don't have to know all this stuff to teach reading. But if you're curious and if you're a collector, kind of like me, it is nice to know what's out there, and then you can make your own decisions. If this isn't your style, you can go for something that's, you know, more ephemera driven. This is very like dry, scientific, you know, not a lot of this is not The Good and the Beautiful if you're a homeschooler. This is very, very analytical. And she had a master's degree. She was teaching adults who were English language learners or not proficient in English. And she realized Denise is she's very humble. I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't understand when I was trying to teach my own, she said, when I was trying to teach my own son, why this was, you know, difficult for him. And it was because he didn't understand how it worked. And then she realized neither do I. And she went out and she pulled together the information. And a lot of this actually comes from other very, very well-known sources. So she is not the... I highlighted some of the sources that I really like. Readingrockets.org, Literary 66, Why Johnny Can't Read and What You Can Do About It. It's a great book. What Happens in the Reading Brain. That's another really great. Greek and Latin Roots of English. Phonics is highly dependent on morphology, so you need to understand how the words are put together. Breaking down words into meaning, early reading instruction, what science really teaches us. Spell to Write and Read was a program that I was really interested in early on, and that was, you know, sort of a speech to print method. Why Our Children Can't Read by Diane McGinnis, of course, that's a really well-known book. Brain imaging, and she has really, really good sources back here. These are not, this is not a haphazard book. There are amazing resources in here. And even if you don't pick up this book, you should look at all these resources. Ideally, with unlimited time and resources, you're going to go through and discover everything that she did firsthand, and then maybe you can revise or revisit some of her conclusions. So anyway, enjoy. I hope to do a couple more. This one's going to be my only Logic of English, but I do understand that there's sort of a desert out there.